stuck here. The cops won't bother me. So in a way, I thought I got a very good deal on this nc700, but now I realize I didn't, because I think the previous owner did try and kind of scam me a little bit. And I think I told you guys that when I bought it from him, I think he wanted like $2,500 or something for it. And I didn't want to, because I could get a one with 1,500 miles, and I was talking to a guy that had 1,500 miles on his. I was going to go buy it. So this guy was like, "Hey, I'll give it to you for $2,000. It doesn't need anything." And when I showed up, he's like, "Yeah, the engine light is on, but he made like, it was very odd. He is a very odd guy, but I think what he tried to do is he took it to the shop to clear the engine light instead of like the oil change. He said he took it in to get an oil change just for me because he was helping me out, but he didn't tell me that. So I thought I would be going to his house, and I think now that I look back, I realized that this guy was very shady, because I went on a Saturday to his house to look at the bike, and I had my trailer and everything. And when I got there, he's like, "Hey, I have an emergency. I can't meet." So I was actually at his house when I got that message. Looking back, I realized that he probably went to look at the bike. He saw that the engine light was on, and that's when he took it to the bike shop, because he wanted to get that engine light out. But he didn't tell me that until I got there. Then he said that the engine light was on, and we agreed on a lower price. But I did realize that it needed some work, and I should have seen the clues a little bit better about it. So first of all, it needs new tires. The tires are completely gone, front and rear, and it has only 10,000 miles. So okay, that's about due. These are probably the original tires. But now I am looking at the chain, and the chain is worn, but it doesn't make any sense. So I have a worn chain with just 11,000 miles. There's something a little bit off, because these chains on something like this that doesn't make a lot of power actually should last a whole lot longer. So I wonder what is up with this. And I think there's a lot of strange things about this bike. I fixed most of it, but I find that there's like something a little bit odd. And I've been complaining a lot about the suspension. I am kind of disappointed with the suspension, because it's not very good. The rear shock is it's not adjustable at all. You only have like 6 millimeters to adjust the preload, I think they call it. And that's not very good, comparing it to the V-Strom that had a lot more adjustability. So that's a little bit disappointed. So I'm also going to need a new chain, and I should have seen this. It's caked up with oil. I mean, it's, I've neglected my chains before, but it's never gotten to this point. It's never gotten to this point where I am taking this and kind of scraping all of this out. I am scraping all of this stuff out of here, so it's kind of odd, but I think probably this bike has got a little bit more miles than what it says in the odometer. And normally, I don't worry about getting bikes that have higher miles, but I like to know that they have higher miles. So this bike feels like it's got a little bit more miles than it has. The previous owner also, he left these on here. I don't think he realized that this was part of the top rack, so he left that on. And after I got the bike on to my house, and he says, "Hey, do you want to buy the top box?" So I guess he took it out, which I don't fault him. I wasn't expecting to get it. Another thing is that this one came with a Bridgestone Metzler tire, and this one is a Battle Axe. So that's a little bit strange, because that's not the original tire, but yet it's only got 11,000 miles. Something does not look right on this thing. And I think I let my guard down, because I figured that he was a little bit too desperate to sell it. And I thought that he was desperate to sell it because he wanted to buy an FZ09. So I thought he was desperate to get the money. So that's just a little bit of a insight onto buying and selling bikes. Sometimes things happen, like when I sell bikes, I try to be as honest as possible. When I sell my cars, I try to be honest as possible. But this was more of a neglect on my part, and I didn't realize that this guy was, I think, kind of like scamming me a little bit. So, but that's fine. I'll figure everything out. The motor on this thing is excellent. It doesn't burn any oil. It doesn't do anything that it shouldn't. I am kind of interested in trying to get a new shock for this thing. Not because there's anything wrong with this one. I just wanted a little bit of a plusher ride. But, it's a interesting bike, and I do love that compartment. And, here's an odd thing, too. All of my bikes, I think most bikes that I've ever had, including the 250 here, have an oil sight glass. This does not. And it's very odd. I think it's a very strange thing for Honda to skip on a lot of this. And even in this bike, it feels a little bit too budget for this type of bike. I would expect a little bit degree of fit and finish that I don't see. And Honda does make very good bikes, but I find that some of these bikes, they really make it harder. I mean, even like with the gas cap, I know it's not a big deal for a lot of people. So if I open this up, even with this gas cap, it's not a big issue because I can put it somewhere here, but this is very low quality, and I kind of wish they just made something with a hinge. On the CB500, Honda did this as well, and it ticks me off because you're paying for a bike, a modern bike, and look at Kawasaki. The Kawasaki is on a hinge. That's a 250. That's one of their lowest budget sport bikes. The Honda CB500 prior to like 2019 still had this sort of cap. This is like something that should not be on a bike, in a modern bike. So it's very disappointing that Honda is cutting the cost of a lot of things by doing these cheap little things. I think this bike is popular. I think it's a great bike. I am very surprised that Honda, with its very good reputation, they kind of slack a little bit. That's what I'm kind of finding, is that they're extremely good. They build great bikes, but I think they're going with their reputation of greatness and kind of slacking a little bit. When you go with Yamaha or Suzuki, they give you a much better fit and finish than Honda. And I've seen this in like my Honda Ruckuses as well. I have quite a bit of work to do on this bike. I kind of wish it didn't have to do this much. So I'm a little disappointed, but yet I'm still liking this bike quite a lot. But this is the first year of the nc700, and there are other bikes. There's the 750 that I would love to ride, and I heard that there's improvements on that bike because, this engine is extremely lazy. The 750 apparently is a lot peppier. Alright guys, thanks for watching. I will see you in the next video.